Live from the Grand Crowne Resort in Branson, Missouri, I'm Kent Emmons, and this is Chatting with the Stars. Hey, joining me here in studio, my favorite chambermaid ever. It's Janie from the Titanic. Janie, it's great to have you back with us again.
I'm glad to be back.
You are one of my all-time favorites because you guys have always got new things going on at the Titanic. I mean, now, last year, of course, you brought the dogs. You've got the two cutest dogs on the planet there.
Yes, we do, and they're still just as cute. In fact, we had a wonderful birthday party for them back in September. You would have had just a laugh. We brought cakes out every day for 3 days. And, you know, they're on a special diet because King Charles have a tendency to get chubby. And so when they saw that cake, it was like so funny because they could eat a little bit of that cake. They didn't eat the whole cake. And then when their birthdays were up, they couldn't eat any more cake, and they were just so disappointed.
It's so, you know, you guys, of course, with the Titanic, you basically have rebuilt what the Titanic looked like, you know, so many years ago. And of course, you're an interactive, you call it a museum, but it's more of an interactive experience where you come on board, you're assigned a name. It's an actual name of somebody who was on the Titanic. Mm-hmm. You follow the journey of the Titanic, and at the end, you look to see if the name that you have survived or didn't survive.
Boy, you act as if you've been there.
Have I been there? Many times. It's one of my favorites. It's one of those things you never get tired of going to. Plus, every year you guys add new stuff. This year, you've got a whole bunch of new artifacts.
Well, each year we try to, during our period of time where we close up for 4 days. And in that 4 days, we paint and we polish and we also switch around the artifacts. And what we decided to do this year is the route map. And the route map is something that a lot of people think, well, Titanic set sail from England, went to the United States. But they don't realize they actually had a couple of stops before they set out on the North Atlantic. So we've got this huge route map, which you can push the buttons and see the progress of what occurred until, of course, you know, that fateful night when we hit the iceberg. And so that is a completely different display that we've put in right where we did have the drafting room. Right. So that's different. And then we also have what we call cutaway. I don't know, remember when you go to the museums when you were a child and they'd have these miniatures? You'd see a miniature Indian village or a miniature. Sure. Well, what we've got is a cutaway of the third class going up to the second class, going up to the first class, and all the coal areas, you know, where you can see all of this coal, and it's all tiny little figures, and so you can see inside the ship. So that's something very special. We like that. So what we've done is we've tried to museum up the museum even more so. You know, we were talking about that, and it is interactive. And a lot of people say, well, do the museum people, you know, look down their nose at it because, you know, regular people like it? And what I think I'm very proud of is the museum people, the ones that are in love with the Smithsonian or the Louvre or one of the museums that we think of as a classic museum. They accept us as a real museum, which we are, and yet somebody that says, I hate museums, you know, they like it too.
Let me tell you something. If there's anybody out there who says, I hate museums, go to this, because trust me when I tell you, this is interactive, it's fun, it's entertaining, it's a piece of history that actually comes to life. You feel like you're living it like they did back then.
Well, thank you. And that's what we try to do. Oh, well, and we've got the new dresses, you know. A lot of first class maid. That's what I am. I'm dressed in the black and white. But basically, you know what we were? We were stewardesses. And when you think of stewardesses on a ship, you think nautical. So all the girls are excited because
now, was stewardesses the right thing, or do you call them float attendants?
Oh, float attendants. No.
Okay.
No.
I just want to make sure we're
Especially not on Titanic.
Here.
You don't want to be a float attendant because you'll freeze. No, we're stewardesses, and that's what they called them back in 1912 as well. And if you were a stewardess, you were considered that you were really kind of a today woman. You weren't a naughty woman, but you were, you know, a modern woman. You know, you had a modern job in a man's world. And so we think we're quite modern in our nautical whites, and it looks just like a little sailor dress. It's really quite fetching.
Wow. Well, you guys have done it right. I mean, it's so authentic, and it's so much fun, and there's action from the time you walk in to the time you walk out. Here's my only problem. I'll go in one time, I'll walk through, and then I'll immediately go right back and go back in again because it's that interesting. And I always find things I missed the first time through.
You can't go through the whole thing and see it all at once. You know, if you're really into Titanic, you're probably going to end up being able to go back several times because you'll be interested in seeing something else, or you might forget something and you want to refresh yourself. I know I work there, but I'm certainly not a Titaniac. Like many people think I am the high priestess of Titanic.
You're not?
I do know a lot about Titanic. In fact, my husband, he is probably the most schooled person I know in Titanic lore. But the people that work at the museum, if we don't know something, I know that I can ask Tommy or I can talk to Phoebe, and they really are Titaniacs, and they'll be
Nice.
able to find it for me, and then I'll be able to tell you the right thing. I don't like to tell, when people give me a boarding pass, and we introduce new ones every year, and if I'm not quite schooled in that person, I want the people that are listening to realize we just don't make things up.
Yeah.
Because, we could get caught and it would be, nasty. So we do find out the real facts about this person. So if I don't know, there's several people there that I consider true experts that will be able to help me.
If you've ever had an interest in the Titanic, or you didn't, you will have after you hit the Titanic Museum right here. You can't miss it, of course. It's the big ship. It's the only big ship right up on the strip here in Branson, Missouri. It's probably the top attraction in town, and I got to tell you, it is an honor having you guys with us every year and being a part of our radio family.
Well, thank you. That means a lot when you say that top attraction, because there are some very good attractions and shows here in this town.
Of course.
And so that's high praise. And I think Branson needs to continue growing, and I'm glad that I think we've been instrumental in doing that.
You guys have been a big part of it. Of course, you guys and your founders, John and Mary, spectacular people. Janie, thank you so much for being here. Check it out, the Titanic, right up on the strip. You cannot miss it. It's right here in Branson. I'm Kent Emmons. Stay tuned for more Chatting with the Stars right here at the Grand Crowne Resorts in Branson, Missouri.